we are tools as humans. God created us for purpose, but we also need to create tools to help us in this purpose. Ben is here serving in different capacities, but he's working with the agricultural department, if I'm not mistaken. And so in order to work in these fields, what are you guys using? You guys out there with your hands, fingernails, digging around there? No. You're using machines to get out there and to help multiply the force of your labor so that you can be even more productive, so that you can sell that fruit or vegetable or whatever it is and have more time to spend with your family, spend with each other, spending time in the Word, all of these things. We're out there creating tools, and we want to create efficient tools. We want to create tools that help us to obey God and help us to provide and love our neighbor. And so so money is one of these tools. Money is one of these tools that enables us to obey God in more efficient ways and to love our neighbor in more efficient ways. Now, we're at the point of what is money, okay? So again, we're back to this question we started with of who created money. Is this just a pure human creation? Here's why I object to that, okay? And here's why I think I have reason to say that. Think about this question. What is money? What does it do? How do we know? Whatever it is, whatever the answer to that question is, money, just because it exists in God's world, should be aiming at God's goal and submitting to the parameters that He designed the world to be governed by. So whatever framework, so the question is, what framework should we use to think about money? How do we think about what money is? How do we know? Okay? Now again, this is weird. Okay, this is going to seem weird, but it's really not weird. We find the answer to this question. Jesus answers this question in a few different places. But we find one succinct, very efficient answer to this question in Matthew 22, verse 15 through 22. So if you have Bibles, you can turn there and look at this. I'm going to read along. I'm using the ESV. I don't know how that is appreciated or unappreciated, but that's what we have. So in Matthew 22, 15 through 22, it says this. Then the Pharisees went and plotted how to entangle him in his words. Who's the him here? Jesus. Okay. So the Pharisees want to entangle Jesus, and they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are true and teach the word of God truthfully, and you do not care about anyone's opinion, for you are not swayed by appearances. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" Reality should be pay tribute. Is it lawful to pay tribute to Caesar or not? But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why do you put me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. And Jesus said to them, "Whose likeness and inscription is this?" They said, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard it, they marveled, and they left him and went away. This is God's word. So, what is going on here? This is one of the most misapplied, misunderstood passages in the entire Bible. I have talked with so many people about this passage, and there's all kinds of things that get taken all kinds of wrong ways. So what we want to do is we want to go through this, and by the end of it, we're going to have a good idea of money. So, first thing that we see is that who is involved here? Who are the parties involved? We have the Pharisees, we have the Herodians, we have Jesus, and then we have Caesar. All right. So who are the Pharisees? The Pharisees are the religious leaders. These are the priests. These are the priests of Israel, one sect of the priests of Israel ruling at this time. Who are the Herodians? Do we know who the Herodians are? The Herodians were the basically King Herod. So he was one of the Herodians. They were not of the kingly line of Judah. They were not promised the throne the way that God had made a promise to David that all of his descendants would be kings of Israel. They were like these. I'll use this word. I don't know how strong it is, but basically they were like the bastard king. They were not supposed to. They had no right to the throne. And yet they'd become friends with the Romans. And so they went there and they negotiated a deal for them to have Caesar back their claim to be basically a puppet king ruling Israel at this time. So they didn't have the right to be there, but they're the representative of the kings. So we have the representatives from the priesthood of Israel. We have representatives from the kingly line of Israel, the people who were ruling at this point. they both come to Jesus, and they basically say something that seems at odds with everything else we know about the Pharisees. They're being really nice to Jesus here. They're saying respectful things for him, which we're not used to seeing from them. The question is, did they have some sort of Damascus Road change of heart? Did God just open their eyes and all of a sudden they see Jesus for who he is and now they're being real nice to him? No, it's not what was going on. So they come and they're saying these sickeningly sweet lies to Jesus. Jesus does not fall for it. They ask him they go through this whole thing, and then they cap this off by asking, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Jesus, it says, aware of their malice, said, why do you put me to the test, you hypocrites? Now, you've probably all read this passage a few times. Why does Jesus just haul off and call them hypocrites? It's not immediately obvious, when you read this. The reason is because Jesus knew the reason why they were asking this question. The reason why they were asking this question is because 30 to 40 years before, there was this man, his name was Judas the Galilean. Okay, ironic name, Judas, not a good guy in the life of Jesus. Judas the Galilean had led a tax revolt, a Jewish tax revolt against the Romans. He basically was standing up and saying to people, it is immoral, it is ungodly, it's against the law of Moses to pay taxes to these ungodly, these godless pagans, these godless idolaters. You should not pay taxes to these guys. He said this. They were also among people who were paying taxes, the faithful Jews who were, again, not a great situation, but they were paying taxes. They would go destroy their property for being, basically for going along with this thing. They basically were these violent people who were objecting to the idea of paying taxes. What had happened to them? Well, they weren't around at this time, so what had happened to them? They had tried to start this revolt against Rome. Rome came down, squashed him, killed Judas the Galilean, killed a bunch of his followers, and here we are. So when the Pharisees are coming to Jesus and they're asking him this question, they're trying to figure out, is Jesus going to do he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to say, no, it's not lawful to pay taxes to Caesar, which is what Judas the Galilean had said, and then they could go over to Caesar. Again, the Herodians were friends with Caesar, and they could say, look, this guy's saying what Judas the Galilean was saying, and then they would take Jesus and go kill him. They'd have grounds to tell the Romans to put Jesus to death. If Jesus says, yeah, no, it is lawful. It is lawful. Go ahead and pay taxes to Caesar. Again, that wasn't going to be a real popular message either. That wasn't going to be a real popular message among the Jewish people because, again, they hated Rome. Rome was oppressing them in all kinds of ways, specifically with this tax. So this tribute, again, they were not big fans of this, and it has to do with what the coin looks like. So this is why Jesus asked them to show him a coin. So Jesus asked them, why do you put me to the test? Jesus knows that they really want to put him to death. They don't really care about the legitimacy of paying this tax, which, by the way, how much was the tax? Do we know? It was 1 denarius. What is a denarius? It's 1 day's wage, okay? In the United States, what's an average year's wage here?
In terms of U.S. dollars?
Yeah, U.S. dollar terms.
$1,400.
Okay, so $1,400. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide 1,400 by 365. So this, for them at that time, if they were living in Zambia, it would be a $3.83 tax. Okay, still 1 day's work. It's not nothing, but it's a pretty small amount. Okay. Yeah. So relative to the year, it's a smallish amount, but even still, they weren't happy about paying it. Who's happy about paying taxes? Nobody. Nobody likes to pay taxes. So he says to them, why do you put me to the test? He knows that they don't actually care about taxes. It's literally a 0.0236% tax. They're asking him this question because they want to put him to death. Okay, this is why Jesus calls them hypocrites. And on the one hand, they're saying, we want to know if it's lawful, not according to Roman law. Obviously, it was lawful according to Roman law. We want to know if it's lawful according to the law of Moses to pay this tax. We're very concerned about making sure we're obeying God. We desperately want to obey God in everything, even the smallest matters. At the same time, they're trying to put an innocent man to death. This is why Jesus calls them hypocrites. Then Jesus, aware of their malice, calls for the coin. He says, or show me the coin for the tax. I have a picture of it. Here it is right here. Okay, so this is the actual coin that they use. This is the denarius from the time period where Jesus was ruling, or where Jesus was alive. And so on this coin, it has obviously a front and a back. Jesus asked the question, whose likeness and inscription is this? And they say Caesar's. Okay, so we know that. Now, this is a picture of Caesar. Okay, what this says in Greek on the side, it says on the front of the coin with the picture of the little profile of him, it says Tiberius Caesar, Divi Augusti, Filius Augustus, which can be translated, or Filius Augustus, which can be translated into English, Caesar Augustus Tiberius, son of the deified Augustus. Okay, so they're saying the emperor at this point was, or the Caesar at this point was Augustus Tiberius. He is the Caesar, who's effectively the king of the Roman Empire at this point. He's the son of the deified Augustus. They believe that when they're Caesars, when some of these Caesars died, they actually became deified. They became gods. So he's a son of a god who's effectively the king. And then on the back of the coin, it showed a picture of somebody. They're not actually sure who this is. They believe it's actually Tiberius's mother. So in the same way that in Roman Catholicism, like they look at Mary and Jesus as having this, really important relationship, they looked at this same thing. The queen mother had basically access to her son. She could convince him to do things that other people couldn't. So this is a picture. They think of her, and it says on either side of this, it says Pontiff Maxim, which is short for Pontifex Maximus, which can be translated high priest. Okay, so to review, the coin that Jesus asks for and they hold up and he sees, when he asks whose likeness and inscription, it shows a picture of the Caesar, who's the son of a god, and who also it has this idea of the high priest. So he's claiming to be a high priest. He's claiming to be the son of a god. He's claiming to be, basically God in a real sense. They believe that the Caesars were God. And so what does Jesus say? Knowing this is, this is why this was a big deal. This was like high blasphemy to the Jews. This guy, you're telling me that we have to pay this tax, and not only do we have to pay it, we have to get this specific coin. There were a variety of coins that were being used. You're going to make us trade money that we've worked hard for this blasphemous coin. This guy's claiming to be God, and you're going to make us pay this thing. We hate everything about this. And so Jesus says to them, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and render to God what is God's.